All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about caffeine. I think that most of us are pretty familiar with where we can get caffeine. So hopefully, through these slides, we'll kind of dispel maybe some ideas that aren't right about caffeine, and then maybe look at some of the reasons why maybe we shouldn't be using so much caffeine. But anyway, this is a pretty good little topic because I think we all get involved with the use of caffeine in one form or another, probably daily. So, especially as college students, or anybody trying to function with little sleep. So, there you go. There's a video here I want you to watch. Once again, it's available. The Seneca had posted all these videos online. So make sure that you watch Caffeine. It'll give you a good overview. This video will give you a good overview of what we're talking about. And for you audio-visual people, this will be better than just listening to me and watching these slides. But go through them with me. Here we go. So we probably already all know that caffeine is the most popular and widely consumed drug in the United States. And it's from the xanthines. The xanthines are their mild stimulant, so it affects our brain, our central nervous system. And there's tons and tons of studies on it. They've looked at caffeine left, right, upside down, inside out, backwards, with exercise, without exercise, with eating, without eating, older people, younger people, middle-aged people, just women, just men, just girls, just boys, everybody, in all kinds of situations. So it's naturally occurring. You can get it in coffee beans, tea leaves, guaraná is a big one, cocoa, so chocolate. It occurs naturally in all kinds of different. And like most products, what happens is we humans will take it, we know that it naturally occurs in a product, and then we'll pull it out of that product, beef it up, and then put it back into products. And so that's when we kind of get it gets a little dangerous when it becomes more of a synthetic. So when you look at the thousands, and there's greater than 10,000 published papers on this, and with well over 5,000 different human exposures to caffeine, we have a pretty good idea of what it does to us, why it does it, and how much is dangerous. So when you look at it, your best, and I think we talked about this in this class, if not, your best form of research is a thing called a systematic review. So they take a bunch of papers that have been written and then they compare them. So they get all these papers that are common, like caffeine, and then they use a process and they compare all of the results of the data. So basically what it comes down to is caffeine in most normal humans, what that means is that they don't have pre-existing medical conditions. They're of average weight. Then about 400 milligrams of caffeine a day is fine. It's good for a healthy adult. Anything more than that is not. So if you're older, for instance, and your digestive system doesn't work as well, or your metabolism, your liver doesn't function as well, then you could have an issue. So if you have inadequate calcium uptake, then your association with risks and falls go up with caffeine use, according to some studies. So just make sure that you're a good, healthy person if you're going to take caffeine. If you know people who are older, who have a history of falls, they probably could use less caffeine. That's basically what this slide is telling you. So when they looked at heart rate, once again, it doesn't have a huge effect on heart rate unless it's over 400 milligrams a day. It doesn't have a huge effect on cardiovascular disease unless it's over 400 milligrams a day. So you should ask yourself, am I consuming more than 400 milligrams a day? You can read the labels. So if you're taking lots of energy drinks, then you might be getting close. Your blood pressure isn't significantly affected if it's lower than 400 milligrams a day. This 400 milligrams isn't a number that all the research went to right away and said, hey, let's start the marker at 400 milligrams. 400 milligrams a day is it just kept coming up over and over and over in the literature. So that's kind of become the magic number with caffeine use. Make sure that it's under 400 milligrams a day. That doesn't mean 399 milligrams is going to be good for you. Depending on your weight, right, and how quickly you're consuming it. So be careful still, don't get close to the 400 milligrams. Why risk it? So if you're going to use caffeine, use it wisely, right? Anyway, they looked at children and adolescents too. And so they said, be careful with that, especially if they're on medications with kids and adolescents. So the thing that they did find out with caffeine is it really does affect your sleep. So if you're trying to get more rest and you feel like you need to sleep more, your body is requiring you to sleep more, taking caffeine isn't going to help you. It doesn't like give you the benefits of sleep without sleep. It keeps you from sleeping. And if you watch that little video that we had kind of in the beginning of these slides, you'd see that. You see the process of how that happens. So caffeine use, because it thwarts your ability to sleep, or it keeps you from sleeping, it can increase your anxieties because you have the same mental stresses that occur with lack of sleep. And caffeine doesn't correct that. So it requires more and more caffeine to kind of stimulate that, but it doesn't get rid of the crankiness, and it doesn't cure you of your lack of sleep. So once again, be very careful. 400 milligrams when it comes to anxiety issues is also the important number. Okay, so really what it comes down to with caffeine is if you don't want to sleep and you need to stay up for whatever reason, caffeine will help. If you really need to get the rest, and rest is the most important thing, then don't take caffeine and get some sleep. So they looked at kids and caffeine, and obviously the numbers are a little different. 400 would be a little bit high. If you do the math, when they with the recommended effects or recommended amounts, it comes to about 70 to 150 milligrams, and that is kind of based on weight. So if you're kind of small and you're 80 pounds and you're between 80 and 120 pounds, then you probably are closer to this range, 70 to 115 milligrams. So just be careful. Know that caffeine affects people differently typically because of weight and absorption into the body. So know that you got to be careful with this. It's a drug just like anything else. So here's basically just an overview. I love that they call it caffeineism, and there are some withdrawals with this. Those of you who have tried to get off of sodas or whatever energy drinks will know this, that there is some withdrawal issues with this. So just be really careful with caffeine, and moderation in all things. I know it's enjoyable, especially if you have to write a paper or studying for an exam, to keep awake just a little bit longer. But limit your use. Know how long you need to stay awake, and don't take something with a high amount of caffeine that keeps you from getting the necessary sleep that's important for your health. All right, you guys, get those assignments done and give us a holler if you have any questions on